Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second Emerging Contaminants workshop. My name's Dr. Clarke, and I'm the founder of the Australian Laboratory for Emerging Contaminants at the University of Melbourne. I'd like to first acknowledge that we are addressing you today from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. The traditional owners of this country have been custodians of the land for thousands of years, and it seems particularly important to acknowledge, respect, and learn from their harmonious relationship between land and people as we continue our work that hopes to understand and ultimately heal some of the damage that has been done to it and to us by modern industrial pollution. Hopefully next year we'll be able to welcome you onto our beautiful campus as well, and we'll be able to have a face-to-face event. In my opinion, the contamination of the environment with synthetic chemicals is one of the most serious environmental issues facing contemporary society. While many chemicals are indeed essential for modern society, some can be particularly problematic. And the worst of these pollutants biomagnify through food chains, accumulating in humans and wildlife, cause negative health impacts, including cancer, reproductive health problems, impaired immune function, and neurodevelopmental impairment, and are detected frequently in all environmental compartments, including air, water, soil, and biota across the globe, and including pristine locations far from known point sources, where they can persist for decades or even longer. And it can be very difficult to remediate or remove by natural processes from environmental matrices. And this number here, which is more than doubled since the first time I showed it in my PhD seminar, is the number of unique chemicals identified in the CAS database. So the issues that we face are quite serious. What we first learned through, to me, there's sort of generations of work. And the first one was the Silent Spring, which Rachel Carson's seminal work catalogued the destruction of deliberate release of pesticides into the environment. And then we moved into Thea Colbin's and the EDC's world, and where we described the sublethal impacts of exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals. And I think we're on the verge of a new style or new thoughts in environmental science about how we protect the natural world. And this is really what we're aiming to do at the at ALEC, the Australian Laboratory for Emerging Contaminants, which we nickname ALEC. And we want to positively contribute to how we understand pollution and hopefully play a role in protecting the environment and public health. And last year we launched ALEC as well with our industry advisory board, and we've sort of tried to grab a cross-section of experts from around the different spaces. And we're really fortunate to have these dedicated professionals from the water sector, contaminated land, government, CSIRO, private industry as well, from Agilent, Eurofins, Trajan, and our independent chair is Professor Emily Hilder from the Defence Science and Technology. We have an absolutely cracking program for you today, and I'm so pleased to be able to announce that our two keynotes are Chelsea from University of Toronto, who you'll hear from shortly, and Dr. Schymanski, who is going to give the afternoon address. Actually, it's actually 3:20 to 4:20. And we have two sessions, the morning session and the afternoon. So the first one's exposure and impact, and the second one will be regulation and monitoring. And we have just such a jam-packed program full of really interesting and new science. I really do need to thank our sponsors as well, because as you're aware, this is quite an affordable event, particularly when you compare it to other industry events. And so we can only do that through the help of sponsors. So Agilent and Eurofins really appreciate your support. And the partner organisations this year have been CTAC again, so the Australian chapter and also the Asia Pacific. Thank you so much. Water Research Australia and the Australian Contaminated Land Consultants Association, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but the Victorian branch helped us out. And then our other sponsors are Trajan, Senversa, and PM Separations. Ideally, we want to allow this, the program will run on time today. I'll try to guarantee you that as best I can. That will allow you to drop in and out as the talks of interest. So we will run on the program, the timing that you've seen. We'd also want to make it as interactive as possible. So at the end, I've asked the speakers to allow plenty of time for engagement and questions. And so we're going to take questions through the Q&A function. Please feel free to type in your questions, probably make sure it's clear who you want to answer that question. And ideally, after they've given their presentation, I'm going to ask that you maybe ask that question yourself. So we can actually unmute you, and then you can ask the question of the speaker. So there's going to be lots of time for questions. Please introduce yourself and your organisation when you're asking those questions. We will, in a couple of months, we'll be trying to release these on YouTube, but we give the presenters an opportunity. If they're happy, we'll do that. But none of the questions will be recorded. So we are recording today, and that is the purpose, but you don't have to worry about yourself being unintentionally recorded.